It's Wednesday night. It's when the news meets the stylistic on NTA News Top Table. Tonight, President Buhari pushes Nigeria's interest amongst international friends in France, seeks better collaboration on the continent. In Kaduna, the push and pull between organized labor and the state government has seen a relenting on one side as the labor suspends strike. The face-off was already biting hard at the citizenry. We have updates on the situation. Also on our lineup, the umpire on dousing fires, INEC in closed-door session as cases of arson on its facilities reaches scorching heights. We'll also be on the second Niger as concept and actuality surrounding the structure of a tantalizing prospects. There are stories on poverty alleviation, campaigns against gender violence, and calls for peace. So let's take it piece by piece. After all, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. I am Fatima Umar, and this is News Extra. I welcome you all. We'll start with a report from Paris. Nigerian friends have reaffirmed their resolve to collaborate more effectively towards fighting insecurity, bedeviling the Lake Chad Basin area and entire stretch of the Sahel region. This agreement was reached when the French leader Emmanuel Macron played host to President Muhammadu Buhari on the sidelines of the Africa Financial Summit in Paris. State House correspondent Adam Musambo reports.
During the high-level talks held behind closed doors, President Emmanuel Macron pledged the steadfast support of the French government for Nigeria and its people as they confront the security challenges facing the country. He said France will absolutely be there on the side of Nigeria and it is willing to support with everything to assist the country to overcome the security threats.
President Macron congratulated him on being able to weather some very difficult storms and committed France to support Nigeria with the in its security challenges and also to cooperate in any areas that that Nigeria might wish for greater cooperation with France.
The French leader also promised to assist Nigeria in confronting the challenges faced with COVID-19 vaccines. President Muhammadu Buhari at the meeting outlined the challenges facing Nigeria as well as its neighbors and explained steps taken so far to reignite the response to the situation, which he said included the appointment of the new service chiefs.
Nigeria is going to be organizing a summit on Chad just to ensure that there is stability in that country which borders Nigeria. Mr. President also emphasized the need for education, that beyond the fighting, some of the root causes is education and jobs, and so that was a priority for him.
The president expressed the willingness of Nigeria to work with France and all international partners towards bringing to an end the security challenges. The Nigerian leader thanked President Macron for agreeing to intensify the existing partnership with Nigeria. From Paris, France, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Still in Paris, President Muhammadu Buhari has emphasized the need for strategic cooperation and collaboration amongst African states towards surmounting the numerous internal challenges bedeviling the continent towards achieving the desired stability for a prosperous future. This was when he granted audience to the President of Ethiopia, Saleh Vokzewde, in Paris on the margins of the Africa Finance Summit. State House correspondent Anna Musambo again reports.
And the Ethiopian president, Saleh Vokzewde, was a follow-up to the state visit by the Nigerian leader to Addis Ababa in February last year. President Zayut briefed President Muhammadu Buhari on the current security, economic and humanitarian challenges bedeviling Ethiopia, especially the conflict in the Tigray region, as well as the political dynamics within the country. Issues relating to the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam were also discussed.
She pointed out that 70% of the Nile water comes from Ethiopia and 30% from, Central Africa, flowing towards Egypt. And of course, there's a big crisis there now between Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia. So she briefed Mr. President on where they were with that, and that it was still an ongoing issue, that the African Union is also involved trying to mediate. And then also briefed Mr. President on the border issue between Sudan and Ethiopia.
President Muhammadu Buhari assured the Ethiopian president that Nigeria is available to help in whatever way possible towards resolving the issues.
Mr. President, spoke about the importance of Nigeria and Ethiopia as the two largest countries population-wise on the continent, to have that strategic partnership and relationship where they will, sit down together to agree on, strategies for addressing African issues.
The president appreciated the highly beneficial relationship between Nigeria and Ethiopia in critical economic sectors. From Paris, France, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, potential investors have been urged to further explore the vast opportunities of human and natural resources in Nigeria, with a firm assurance that fiscal policies will be more favorable, predictable and tilted towards achieving harmonious business environment. President Muhammadu Buhari, who made the plea in France, already extracted serious commitment from Total on additional investments in Nigeria's economy. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has that.
Receiving a delegation from Total, President Muhammadu Buhari said the outlook and potentials for growth in the country have remained steadily positive, affirming Nigeria's government's commitment to scale up operating standards and policies that encourage mutual benefits. He thanked the Chief Executive Officer of Total for the company's consistency and expansion in Nigeria since 1956, promising that the government will enhance fiscal stability that will continue to guarantee high returns on investments. Both the Group Managing Director of the NNPC and the Chief Executive Officer of Total assured the President of the readiness of the company to stay in Nigeria and further expand interest in oil, gas, solar, and other commodities that will directly impact the lives of the nation's citizens.
Total has been a very long-term partner of Nigeria in the oil and gas business, and we want that to continue. And we really hope we'll see a very constructive PIB and a win-win PIB so that we can continue to invest at a high level as we go forward.
Total is part of the bigger picture in our country in terms of oil and gas exploration and production, and definitely all the reforms that are going on, which is essentially to introduce more transparency into our business, create a more robust fiscal environment for our country, make it more competitive, and become the destination of choice for investors. And obviously, Total is seeing this opportunity, and that's why they are confirming that they are going to stay with us, they are going to invest in our country, and we're happy to see them do that.
President Muhammadu Buhari also held meetings with Executive Vice President, Airbus, Chairman of the Board of a software company, Dassault Systems, Chairman, General Engineering and Marketing of Telecommunications Operators, Gentelco, as well as Chairman, Donaflex Automotive Company.
Basically, what we have done is, in our discussions with all of them, we have made it clear to them that we are only interested in dealing with companies that are interested in manufacturing in Nigeria. For us, that is our key focus now, and we believe that anybody that we are going to that we will be patronizing in Nigeria must be people who are willing to come and manufacture whatever it is they want to do in Nigeria.
President Buhari also engaged heads of critical European organizations, but details of their discussions were not made public. From Paris, France, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And back home, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria will continue to support the aspiration and activities of the government and people of the Gambia, especially in ways that promote African brotherhood. The Vice President stated this Wednesday when he received the special envoy of President Adama Barrow of the Gambia, Mamadou Tangara, who is also the country's Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambia's Abroad. State House correspondent Gideon Ifadi reports.
Receiving the Gambian president's delegation, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria strongly remain in support of the government and people of the Gambia. The Vice President said the Nigerian government remains committed to its relationship with the Gambia, describing it as a long-standing relationship of brothers. Vice President Osinbajo said Africans have the responsibility to the people of the continent and to the world to work together for the best purposes and for the best objectives. Leader of the delegation, Mamadou Tangara, said he is in Abuja to solicit Nigerian support for his country's quest to produce the next president of the ECOWAS Commission. Nigeria's support, the special envoy said, will be instrumental in actualizing his country's ambition. It noted that the Gambia is committed to serving the Commission with dedication in accordance with the ideals advocated by Nigeria, especially in repositioning the Commission for better results. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NT News.
And let's head to Lagos. Safeguarding maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea is a shared responsibility between national, regional and international maritime players. This and many other factors formed the nucleus of discussion of a course titled Developing Maritime Security Culture in the Gulf of Guinea, held in Lagos. Olumide Eguntala reports.
Available data by the International Maritime Bureau in the year 2020 indicates that the Gulf of Guinea, which borders more than 3,700 miles of West African coast between Guinea and Angola, accounts for 90% of maritime kidnappings in the world. Prior to this period, several efforts had been made by authorities concerned to stem this tide and other crimes in the maritime sector. One of such is this capacity building course organized by the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center in collaboration with the Nigerian Navy and Denmark government. Representative of the Flag Officer Commanding Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Monde Unuere, laid emphasis on the impact of culture in formulating maritime security policy.
One could state that failure to give attention to the impact of culture in any maritime security policy or strategy could jeopardize the effectiveness of that strategy. It is in the light of this that I'm excited about the potentials of this capacity building effort to draw attention to the seemingly innocuous but crucial role of cultural considerations to maritime security governance.
Facilitators of the course solicited for enhanced maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea in order to ensure economic growth in the region.
The first point is for us to be able to sensitize the main actors in the maritime security domain, and that's essentially what we are doing.
Ensuring enhanced maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea is therefore key to enhancing economic growth for the region.
With this course, participants say they are better prepared for the challenges ahead.
There's really need for synergy amongst all the stakeholders.
We have learned so much that we know who and who to contact in aspect of sea arm robbery.
With the knowledge of maritime security, we'll know how to apprehend the traffickers on the high seas.
This is the fourth training in its series. In Lagos, Olumide Eguntala, NT News.
Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika is not backing down on his efforts to bringing on board a new national carrier, despite the drawback caused by coronavirus pandemic. The minister says finishing touches are being put in the process and that the nation will by 2022 hopefully welcome the new national carrier. And for other projects under his ministry, the FEC approved 201 million naira to prevent accidents and enhance investigation of accident cases for the aviation ministry. Similarly, the Ministry of Water Resources received a lifeline from the Federal Executive Council to carry out further action on 2 abandoned projects. Jide Onifade reports on these and other deliberations at the Council's meeting this Wednesday.
Well, the administration continues with its policy on completion of abandoned and ongoing projects. As Council today approved 2 memos relating to this, and we are told that appreciable progress has been made with the implementation of this policy. Minister of Water Resources Suleiman Adamu presented 2 memos before the Council seeking for the augmentation of contract sums for 2 existing projects.
The first one was for expansion and completion of Bogwe irrigation project on Watari Dam in Bogwe local government area of Kano State. So was gracious to approve this augmentation with a sum of 3.762 billion naira, bringing the new contract sum from 5.4 billion to 9.2 billion.
The second memo was for the pure water supply project started in 2001.
So the total augmentation, like I said, is 5.063 billion naira, bringing the contract sum now to 9.36 billion from 4.29 billion.
Aviation Minister Adis Rika swore and got approval for the purchase of a multipurpose vehicle to serve the office of the Accident and Investigation Bureau.
The contract is for the procurement, equipment and installation of accident investigation towable mobile offices.
The minister also speaks on progress being made on the proposed national carrier.
Nigeria is the best candidate to have an airline. 200 million mobile people that travel sometimes almost for nothing.
FCC today presented to Council a memo seeking approval for the procurement of 4 sets of automatic and static anti-crash boiler system with automatic vehicle scanners and other accessories, 900 linear meters perimeter fence intrusion detection system, and human screening equipment.
Second memo presented and approved, as stated by the minister, was for the purchase of 16 vehicles for the use of the Federal Civil Service Commission. The minister, when asked on what government is doing concerning the labor crisis in Kaduna, says the federal government has waded in through the labor ministry and that the security agencies are taking steps to help protect lives and properties from hoodlums that might want to hijack the protest from the labor unions. Most of the council members joined the meeting virtually, with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo presiding. A minute silence was observed by council members in honor of late Aisha Al-Hassan, former Minister of Women Affairs. And the State House, Jide Onifade, NJ News.
Thank you so much, Judy. Now, let's take a short break. In the next segment of the news, deployment of 5G network meets brick wall in the Senate. Plus, INEC Supremos in firefighting session as attacks on facilities pile up. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Good governance, experts say, cannot be realized without informed policy formulation and implementation strategies. This is the reason policymakers and implementers should take advantage of the available geospatial data for planning and tracking. Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonaya Onu, gave the advice during the validation workshop for data managers in the country. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday reports.
Nigeria, a nation with diverse socio-cultural and environmental resources, observers say needs current, accurate, and cost-efficient data, which are crucial for resource management. It is against this background that Nigeria joined the global initiative of georeferenced infrastructure and demographic data, GRID 3, designed to help government collect, use, and share geospatial data on population, settlements, and any other point of interest. These scientists are to develop templates for National Geospatial Data Infrastructure Draft Bill that will be presented to the National Assembly.
Very useful in achieving operational efficiency in elections, population census, and also the COVID-19 geospatial tracking systems.
We're currently developing a mobile web application that will incorporate the geospatial capabilities of different administrative units for Nigerians to apprise projects by MDAs.
The host said all declassified geospatial data sets are now available on the Grid 3 portal for direct foreign investments and used by all for good governance.
Free information, for example, when you want to locate any government project to know whether this place is going to be affected by disaster or not, so that the development programs are not eroded.
The draft bill for National Geoinformation Data Infrastructure, and the bill will go to the National Assembly and it will become the law of the land. But there is a Federal Executive Council resolution on the Nigerian Geoinformation Policy, and the program and the project is running on that.
The legislation of Grid 3, key players say, will go a long way to fast of resources and national development. Adebola, Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Now, on the 5th of May 2020, the Senate considered a motion which called for a thorough investigation of possible impact of the deployment of 5G network in Nigeria, especially on the health of Nigerians. 1 year after, the Senate committee, which carried out the investigation, has presented its report. And National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onkwo tells us what their findings and recommendations are.
The fear of some Nigerians on the planned deployment of 5G network in Nigeria last year crystallized into a legislative intervention on the floor of the Senate. Conscious of the unknown, the Senate directed its Joint Committee on Communications, Science and Technology, ICT, Cyber Crimes and Primary Health Care and Communicable Diseases to investigate the status of 5G network on health. 1 year after the referral, the committee has presented its report and recommended that the federal government should suspend the planned deployment while still observing experiences from countries that have already deployed the network. It also recommended a coordinated experiment for the period of over 6 months to find out if there's a relationship between 5G network and public health.
The Joint Committee hereby recommends, as postulated by the Office of the National Security Advisor, the establishment of an interagency working group to assess and address all the national security concerns.
We should learn our lessons from those who have already deployed the technology.
The Senate, through a motion from Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, called for maximum punishment without option of fine for vandalism and theft of rail lines. It resolved to investigate alleged defaulting in statutory remittances to the federal government by lottery operators in Nigeria, as it called for upward review of budgetary allocation to the National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, Plateau State. The bill seeking to outlaw payment of ransom to abductors or kidnappers, sponsored by Senator Ezenwa Onyewuchi, passed second reading.
Urge the relevant authority, including the Nigerian Railway Corporation, to engage the services of local security guard along all the rail lines in the country.
Payment of terrorist ransom is illegal under the UK Terrorism Act 2000, while the USA adheres to a strict no concessions policy on the policy of ransom.
Senate has scheduled zonal public hearings on constitution amendment, and to enable members of the Senate attend to these public hearings, the Senate has adjourned to Tuesday, the 1st of June 2021. Shortly after plenary, President of the Senate Ahmed Lawan granted audience to the leadership of Arewa Filmmakers Association, where he harped on the need to strengthen local government administration in Nigeria.
And no one will deny the fact that there is need for us to improve the structure of our government at the federal, at the state, and at the local government level.
The filmmakers conferred on Senator Lawan the title of Garkuwan Arewa and appointed him its national patron. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTN News.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives wants to amend Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution to address delays in dispensation of criminal cases. The House says the amendment will cure a defect in the criminal justice system and assist in fast-tracking determination of cases related to corruption and money laundering. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
As is currently the practice, criminal cases have to start afresh, irrespective of the stage, whenever the sitting High Court judge is elevated to the Court of Appeal. House members, while debating the Constitutional Amendment Bill, were of the view that this is akin to denial of justice, in addition to unnecessary and avoidable costs and pains to the litigants. Representative Onufio Luke is the sponsor of the bill.
This constitutional proposal is made to give dispensation to a judge of a high court who has been elevated to the Court of Appeal to continue to sit as a judge in order to conclude part-head criminal matter, given the advantages it gives to our judicial system.
Let's give the judge who has been elevated to the higher court a period of, say, 3 months to clear his table before he assumed a new office.
The judge can decide to sit on these cases to eternity. So if as much as we are trying to cure the mischief in that aspect, I think we should cure it properly.
Also passed at second reading is the bill sponsored by Representative Alex Ebuna, seeking to establish Institute of Development and Administration of Nigeria.
One thing about the bill is that it does not put any financial burden on the federal government, meaning that the National Assembly will not have any need to appropriate funds for the budget for the running of the institute.
Plenary featured the passage of 5 bills, including a bill to establish Federal University of Agriculture in Kowa in Gombe State. Meanwhile, the House is to investigate alleged violation of safety procedure by airlines as raised by Representative Sani Bala, just as it resolved to investigate alleged discriminatory practices against persons with disability at airports as moved by Representative Miriam Onoha.
One Dr. Chike Okogu, who is living with disability, Dana Airline barred him from boarding its aircraft after he had obtained a boarding pass on the ground that a new policy forbids carrying passengers on wheelchair.
The lawmakers have passed a resolution to investigate the status of the contract awarded by the federal government in 2011 at the cost of 72.3 billion naira for the rehabilitation of the 1,443 kilometers Port Harcourt-Maiduguri section of the Eastern Rail Line. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
From counting of ballots to counting of fire incidents, certainly that's not what INEC bargained for, but a situation that the Commission has to contend with. With the 2023 general elections fast approaching, is there more to the fires that meets the eye? Huge task before INEC, but Mayor Gidi reports that INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu seems not deterred in quenching the fire as he gathers his lieutenants to strategize.
The 2023 general election must be different from all previous elections in terms of our preparations and readiness.
Preparations battling to survive flames of fire.
An Eco office is gone.
Since after the 2019 elections, flame after flame. About 24 fire incidents recorded in INEC offices across the country, from Ondo to Kano, Imo, Enugu, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Plateau, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. A call for worry, so a meeting is summoned, but all waited a while at the door of the venue for a security sweep. No time to take chances, even at the headquarters. Security checked. Time for meeting. But another bad news from Ebonyi State.
Just last night, Tuesday, 18th May 2021, 2 more offices in Ebonyi and Eza North local government areas of Ebonyi State were burnt down.
There is more to the fire, the INEC chair suspects.
These attacks are no longer freak events, but appear to be quite orchestrated and targeted at INEC. Clearly, these are acts of unjustifiable aggression which may undermine the Commission's capacity to organize elections and dent the nation's electoral process. The Commission will certainly work with the security agencies to deal with the perpetrators of these heinous crimes according to the law.
Doors closed, meeting over. The intelligence gathered from the resident electoral commissioners across the country will be presented in an Interagency Security Council meeting on Monday, 24th of May, 2021, to see how the rising tide on the attack of INEC facilities can be stemmed in the country. Mayor Ogidi, NTA News.
Thank you, Mayor. The Nigerian police have been urged to end the incessant attacks on police personnel and formations. The advice was at the instance of the Acting Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Ali Baba, at the launch of a new security outfit codenamed Operation Restore Peace in the South region in Port Harcourt. Robinson Derataide has the details.
In recent times, not fewer than 15 security operatives have been killed by unknown gunmen in the Niger Delta region alone.
Operation Restore Peace is an initiative of the present Inspector General of Police with the aim to stabilize security in the South region within a short period of time.
There must come a time in the life of a nation when we, as a people, must strengthen our will and resolve to mobilize and deploy all our assets towards confronting these criminal elements. Take the baton to their doorsteps and make a clear statement that the few deviants within us cannot and will not reorder our cherished national values.
I can assure you that the morale of our officers and men for this operation is very high.
Reiterating Rivers State commitment to the sovereignty of Nigeria, the Deputy Governor promised the state's continued support to the police.
As a government and as a people, we continue to believe in the sovereignty of our great nation, Nigeria. And we will continue to support the Nigeria Police Force in Rivers State to enable them achieve all their goals and mission.
The officers' demonstration drill added color to the event. In Port Harcourt, Robinson Derataide, NTA News.
So a bit on religious news now. Religious leaders have identified peaceful coexistence and reconciliation through religious dialogue as a means that will help in addressing the security challenges in the country. This was at the second quarter of the 2021 meeting of Nigeria Interreligious Council, NIREC, in Abuja.
Leaders under the umbrella of the Nigerian Interreligious Council have come together to chart ways of helping government address various challenges confronting the nation.
The issue of judiciary union that have been on strike for 2 months, whatever can be done to intervene to resolve the disputes between the judiciary workers and the judiciary itself should be done. NIREC should offer itself, to come in to dialogue. What is the problem?
Religious leaders, this is the time for us to unite and speak in unison against all these evils before being wiped away by the criminals. Breaking the nation into fragments may not be the answer.
With the theme, ethnic, religious and political profiling is avoidable, adherents of both religions are urged to refrain from comments and actions that are capable of disuniting the nation.
It is high time we called criminals by their proper names without profiling their religion and tribe from the name they bear.
As Nigerians,
We must use every available opportunity to put humanity above ethnic, religious, and political differences.
As a tool that will promote peaceful coexistence in the country, adherents of both religions are urged to recommit to peace, unity, and reconciliation for the country to achieve its developmental agenda.
In the meantime, the prelate of the Methodist Church of Nigeria, His Eminence, Dr. Kanu Uche, has commended the federal government for the strategic measures put in place at reducing the devastating effect of coronavirus pandemic on livelihood and investment, but wants the government to strengthen intelligence gathering in the quest to finding a lasting solution to insecurity. Michael Olale has the report.
The prelate said, though it has been a tough war fighting coronavirus globally, the federal government, through its proactive measures, has demonstrated its resolve to safeguard the health and lives of Nigerians, hoping that the tempo will be sustained. He encouraged the citizens to get vaccinated while intensifying prayers to end the COVID-19 scourge. On the state of the nation, the prelate reaffirmed that the beauty of the country is in its unity in diversity, advising those sponsoring or supporting insecurity to have a rethink.
We should be our brother's keeper. We should not destroy this country. Nigeria is better staying together. Nobody should polarize Nigeria. Nobody should make us work on parallel lines, because parallel lines will never meet. So all the agitations to have independent countries in Nigeria, I'm not for it. We cannot go to that. Rather, let us rejig our constitution. Let us convoke a conference.
While frowning at the spate of attacks on police stations, especially in the southeast, the prelates called on the media, mobilization organs and non-governmental organizations to raise campaign on security consciousness and awareness, adding that the interest of the country is paramount irrespective of political or religious affiliation.
The all or none and do or die attitude of politicians should be checked, and all should embrace politics without bitterness.
The prelate of the Methodist Church, Nigeria, further commended the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency for strengthening surveillance at nipping drug trafficking and abuse in the bud. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NT News.
We will take a short break now, and when we return, face-off in Kaduna between the state government and organized labor sees labor relenting as the citizenry groan under the weight of enforced inertia. Plus, legislators move decisively against gender-based violence. Find out more when we come back.
You can get more news and updates on www.nta.ng or follow us on our Twitter handle at NTA News Now. You can also like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/NTA Network News. And also stay connected and subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Also remember to watch our news live streaming at www.nta.ng/live.
You're welcome back. In view of the impact of the one-month strike by judiciary workers on justice delivery in the country, legal practitioners are calling on the union to find a melting point with government to resolve the impasse. Clement Barikui, I beg your pardon, who spoke with some of the lawyers in Uyo, the state capital, now reports.
Since April 6, 2021, this entrance has remained closed due to the indefinite strike by the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria. This situation is the same across the country. The industrial action has not only crippled administrative activities in court, but private legal practitioners are not finding the situation funny.
It has dragged us back by more than 5 years. In the next 50 years, the files at the Supreme Court will not, if you don't have new files, the current files at the Supreme Court will not be exhausted. except they just keep striking out.
So they can stay for the next 1 year without resuming work because they're still paying them salary. They are not the ones suffering. So the impact is really on the practitioners who use the courts as the means to express their labor, and the litigants who wants their rights determined.
Justice delivery may have been on standstill for about a month, but the respondents believe these can be addressed through the right political will.
Get garnishee proceedings on board. Seize the monies accruable to states.
If powers are separated constitutionally, then these offices should be allowed to function in line with the constitutional separation of powers. That's my take.
The union members had downed their tools to press home their call for financial autonomy of the third tier of government. In Uyo, Clement Barikui, NTA News.
Before tonight's suspension of the strike, the industrial action over the sack of workers in Kaduna State entered day 3, with more leaders suing for amicable means of resolution. Suleiman Abdullahi Rugachukwu reports.
Members of the organized labor converged on the Kaduna NLC Secretariat in continuation of the strike.
You know that we don't deploy workers' power unnecessarily. Yes, we only deploy workers' power when it becomes necessary and obvious. Yes,
on the other hand, a group of youth also rallied support for the state government, citing developmental strides as reasons.
He is sanitizing the situation.
Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai says government is not denying workers their right to protest, but will not tolerate sabotage.
Should an employer keep persons of poor education, inadequate skills, qualifications, and bad work attitudes in employment, whether he likes it or not? Our answer in Kaduna State is that it is in the negative.
Based on the prevailing circumstances in Kaduna State, stakeholders, including opinion leaders, have continued to call on Kaduna State government and the Nigerian Labour Congress to return to the negotiating table with a view to having amicable resolution to the disagreement between them.
Now that you have what we may call almost a near standstill situation, and each party is not willing to blink or to back down, it is very, very important that we appeal, to both sides to please sheath their sword and allow voices of reason to prevail.
I believe they have a focus, they have some intellectuals around them. They should be, advised to come to the negotiating table.
My own is to ensure that there is adequate security. My own is to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order. And this is what I'm doing.
The one strike is expected to end on Friday. Suleiman Abdullahi Rugachukwu, NTA News.
In the meantime, the Minister of Women Affairs, Paul Ntallen, has joined other voices to call for calm in Kaduna as she appeals to the workers, especially essential workers, to consider the plight of women and children who are sick. This is as she reacts to reports of nurses in Barodiko Hospital said to have disconnected life support on patients where a 2-day-old child was affected during the Nigerian Labour Congress strike. A development, she notes, does not augur well for development.
We're not saying that unions should not demand for their rights, but caregivers should remember that they go into that profession to protect life, not to destroy.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, has waded into the ongoing strike at the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC in Kaduna. He has therefore invited the two parties to trade dispute. The Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, and top officials of the state, as well as the President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Ayuba Waba, and top NLC leaders to an emergency conciliation meeting by 11 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday, the 20th of May 2021, at the office of the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment, Federal Secretariat, Abuja. And a Nigeria Labour Congress has suspended its strike in Kaduna State to honor the invitation of the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige. The national president of NLC, Comrade Aiba Waba, stated this after an emergency meeting in Kaduna.
That pertain to strike, lockout, and industrial action. As we are aware, we have said time without number that anytime there is an opportunity to have a discussion over an industrial relation issue, particularly like the one we have mentioned, we have always availed ourselves the opportunity to attend such meetings. So this afternoon, an official letter was actually communicated to the NLC National Headquarters, signed by the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige. And all of us also must have seen the decision of the Federal Executive Council to say that intervention should be made and all parties should be brought to the negotiation table to look at the issue at stake with the aim of resolving them. And having received this letter officially, NAC and Central Working Committee just concluded its meeting and thought that it's important we honor this meeting. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, 11 o'clock in Abuja.
Now away from that, imagine going to school by all means and having no meal at all day. Well, that used to be the case of some Nigerian children who are not privileged until the federal government changed the narrative with the introduction of the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, which has impacted lives of pupils. To expand the scope, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, has inaugurated a multi-sectoral committee towards achieving sustainable success of the program. Ruth Aguele reports.
Pictures, they say, capture memories. But these are beyond memories, but a life-changing experience for children across the country who are beneficiaries of the federal government's homegrown school feeding program.
Every day we are eating food, good food.
Honestly speaking, this food is very important.
17 naira meal per day may be nothing to many, but for these pupils, it is a big deal. Food in the stomach, no doubt, comes with joy in the heart, as displayed by these beneficiaries of the homegrown school feeding program. But to actualize the objectives of the program, which is to promote enrollment in schools and improve nutritional value of children, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has inaugurated a multi-sectoral committee drawn from different ministries and agencies to ensure sustainable progress of the program.
The first mandate of this ministry is to coordinate the implementation of actions that can kill poverty. Because the food is making the children sit in this class, they will learn more. Before, they will be playing outside, they will not be listening to their teachers, but once you say, if you are not sitting in class, no food for you, you'll see everybody sitting there. On this team, you are one. And if this school feeding program wins, all the stakeholders here claims the success.
This means that we must work with our colleagues from the various relevant line ministries to truly jointly realize these objectives.
Members of the committee pledge their commitment by ensuring they provide the necessary support required in meeting the desired target. However, as these pupils remain in school, the path to a better future will be sustained. In Abuja, Ruth Aguele, NT News.
Sure, the path of a better future would be sustained. Now, legislative interventions on gender-based violence, both at national and state levels, abound in Nigeria. In addition to international and regional instruments, Nigeria is signatory to conventions on the protection of women and girls. However, for some time now, there has been an unprecedented increase in gender-based violence in Nigeria, with most of the perpetrators still walking the streets free, while the victims suffer stigmatization and psychological trauma occasioned by the abuses. Vera Chumuba is asking, what is hindering effective application of these laws to curb the menace?
United Nations listed Nigeria among the 89 countries that made legislative intervention to stem the tide of violence against women and children with state institutionalized action plan. The UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, Violence Against Persons Act, NAPTIP Act, and the Child Rights Act are among legislations on gender protection in Nigeria. However, the predominance of gender-based violence in the country has reached an alarming proportion, raising concerns as to why the application of these legislations has not substantially curbed the menace.
It is always very difficult to get evidence to finally or eventually pin down such accused persons before they can be convicted. And in many instances, when you are dealing with sexual violence or gender-based violence, the victims always find it difficult to come forward.
Another factor for the seemingly non-implementation of our laws is the political will, perhaps, by the makers of the law to make the law work.
Director General NAPTIP, Imam Suleiman Ibrahim, under whose desk the bulk of work lies in terms of implementation, said the agency is employing a multi-sectoral approach to addressing the issue.
We're looking at reviewing our operations. What we do is to strengthen our legal framework to ensure that it's fit for purpose. We're looking at the ways to strengthen the response. We have dealt with consequences. We want to emphasize dealing with causes. We're also looking to strengthen our international cooperation.
If the narrative on the increasing gender-based violence in Nigeria must change, a holistic approach involving all stakeholders, traditional rulers, religious bodies, women rights groups, families and law enforcement agents is required to tackle the menace. In Abuja, Vera Chumuba, NTA News.
You are still watching News Extra on the NTA. Still to come, the second Niger Bridge, a critical infrastructure that holds the key to more bigger trade vistas. Are there more bridges to cross before its completion? Plus, Taruga, have you heard of it? We'll tell you after these messages. Please stay.
More news and updates on www.nta.ng or follow us on our Twitter handle at NTA News Now. You can also like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/NTA Network News. And also stay connected and subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Also remember to watch our news live streaming at www.nta.ng/live.
Thanks for staying. Debt relief to free funds for recovery efforts, says economist. As NGX All-Share Index continues losing streak after Tuesday trading session. Musa Bakr has details on business news. Take it away, Musa.
Thank you, Fatima. The appeal to consider restructuring debt portfolios, opting for complete reliefs and releasing vaccines to the continent by President Muhammadu Buhari at the African Finance Summit in France is receiving positive reviews by economists at home. Uche Owaleke, professor of capital market and financial economics, say if considered will afford the country more funds to speed up efforts to put the economy back on the path of growth and development.
As you know, the major challenge we have in this country today in relation to our debt burden has to do with the rising debt service ratio. So with debt relief, I'm not talking about suspension of interest payments, with debt forgiveness, that will reduce the burden of servicing debt, freeing up funds for these economies, including Nigeria, to to bounce back, especially to see what to put in education and health in particular.
Now the capital market, the equities market closed below 39,000 points to extend negative sentiments after Wednesday's trading. The all-share index declined 1.48% to close 38,445.09 points, and the equity capitalization at 20.04 trillion naira. 153.6 million shares, worth 2.4 billion naira, were traded in 3,494 deals at the end of the day's transaction. UACN Limited, Zenith and Fidelity Bank were the most traded shares with a combined volume of 28.3 million shares valued at 346 million naira. Well, that's business news. It's back to you, Fatima.
Well, thank you so much, Musa, for the business package. Now, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDEMB, in its quest to achieve 70% local content development in the oil and gas sector, is working within the ambit of the Industry Content Development Act of 2010 to achieve the set target. Executive Secretary of the Board, Simbi Wabote, in a colloquium with the Nigerian Bar Association section of Business Law, said, while opportunities for investment abound in the value chain, the board has encountered some challenges with the Act. Abolade Salami reports.
Nigeria, with a proven crude oil reserves estimated at about 38 billion barrels, is the second largest crude oil reserves in Africa and 10th in the world. With that statistics, the country at a time before the enactment of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010 had only a small fraction of 5% of the annual oil and gas capital retained in the country. The narrative, which has now changed to 35% value retention since the inception of the Act, Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Simbi Wabote, said the Act has brought about development in the local capacities along the oil and gas value chain without compromising standards.
There is a section of the Act that talks about what happens when an entity or a company violates the provisions of the Act. So if you don't comply, and we do our best to engage you, and it is obvious that there is no intention to really comply with what is good for the country, the board will have no other option than to use the big stick.
The panel session, divided into groups, discussed Local Content Act and the Nigerian economy, NCDEMB regulations, lawyers and Nigerian content, imperfection in the NOGIC Act of 2010, and opportunities under the Nigerian Content Act.
First and foremost, we want to highlight that compliance is not as we think it should be. Secondly, we want to talk about ways to make communication more transparent.
It's clear to me that while the Act itself has had very good intentions, it's obvious that the implementation may not have been done 100%.
While the board is calling on legal practitioners to look into some of its challenges, including misinterpretation of the Act and lack of in-depth understanding of it, among other issues, Wabote said the implementation of the 10 years strategic roadmap is on course, as well as deepening Nigerian content in the oil and gas industry. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
From Lagos, let's head to Onitsha. The usual traffic gridlock witnessed at the River Niger Bridge, Onitsha, will soon be a thing of the past. This is because the long-awaited second Niger Bridge is fast becoming a reality. Uchenna Nwekoyo visited the site for an update.
More than 61% job has been done on the 11.9 kilometers total project length. Incremental launching of beam north approach of the bridge has also been completed, while that of the west approach is near completion. Work is progressing aggressively on the link roads with laying of asphalt ongoing. Behind me is the Obosi Interchange Bridge, one of the connecting bridges to the second Niger Bridge. What is going on now is the parapet work. The bridge deck has been completed.
When you look at the bridge, one lane, that's the Asaba bound, we've completed about 1.3 kilometer of the 1.6 kilometer length. Then on the other side, we have completed about 575 meters. Apart from the road, we have completed about 76% of the bridge, the main bridge.
When the government have completed the second Niger bridge, it will help us, it will help all drivers because of this hold up and all those things be happening for this, especially for this air bridge. So
I commend this administration because so far, all the past administration never do this one he has done.
The second Niger Bridge is one of the many legacy projects of the Buhari administration that will boost economic activities, especially in the southeast zone. In Onitsha, Uche Nwekoyo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, at the Asaba end of the bridge, there has been a significant progress in delivering the second Niger bridge in record time, following the completion of the northern section of the bridge dual carriage way. Austin Edemodu has the situation report.
This is the completed section of the northern axis of the incremental launching of the bridge carriageway, stretching over 755 meters towards the Onitsha end of the project.
Launching eastern approach is ready. Western approach north side is ready, complete with bearings. South side is now element number 6 outside. Element 6 of 28 outside. Element 7 will go on Friday.
At the formation site of the bridge deck, workers are working around the clock as the seventh segment of the incremental launching of the southern section of the bridge dual carriageway has reached an advanced stage. This is the point where the Asaba and Onitsha axis of the bridge carriageway will be hooked up. This critical aspect of the project is designed for navigational channels for big vessels.
We are now at the end of the western bridge, north side, and looking on axis 250. We are now on 240. We are looking at axis 250. So the bridge, the main bridge, will come this way and will be right now in front of us linked. This one is all area, which one is very deep.
Apart from the 1.6 kilometers main bridge, the asphalt work on the access road to the bridge from the Asaba axis is equally in progress.
Doing the binding course on the Okamakom side from Okwe to Okamakom. So that's the western approach. So as time goes on, when we finish that, we'll do the binding, the wearing course.
With the tempo of work at the second Niger bridge, there is optimism that the project, which is almost at 60% completion stage, will be delivered as promised in 2022. I'm Austin Edemodu, NTA News.
You know the saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. To avoid this and the preventive wastages while ensuring that the dividends of democracy are delivered to the people, the Inouye Yahaya administration in Gombe State is working with a strategic development plan. Emmanuel Akila takes a look at the implementation of the development document as it affects the lives of the people of the state.
To the layman on the street of Gombe, having a 10-year development document may not be meaningful to him until the content of the document is translated into fiscal projects that will have direct bearings on his everyday life.
What
the ordinary man wants to see is real fiscal project, even though paperwork are done. Things he can see, talk about, and appreciate.
To many people, just like Saidu Ibrahim, seeing structural transformation is what growth and development is all about. But to policymakers, it does not just happen without planning.
Of the development plan, I think.
In February this year, the Inouye Yahaya administration unveiled the state 10-year development plan, a document that would guide the state to implement policies and programs for the good of the people.
For us to ensure that the choices we make, the steps we take, and the outcomes we envisage are technically desirable and consistent with our goals, it is necessary to have a robust plan for building durable institutions. mobilizing resources and capabilities, as well as managing risk and shocks from unforeseen domestic and global events.
The plan, which is already being implemented, is designed to, among other things, make healthcare service accessible to all, construction of roads to link the rural areas to the state capital, and transformation of the education sector with special focus on basic education.
Brain Friend software is an electronic learning application that contains 60 subjects and quality study materials to help you learn effectively.
We are providing e-library, a library, ICT center, motorcycles. So we are in the process of bringing education to the next level.
The strategic plan also focuses on the needs of the people, as outlined in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
When you're lucky enough to have someone who takes the youth of Gombe, the professionals of Gombe, expertise from outside, and create a roadmap for a 10-year horizon, then I think really Gombe has been blessed.
The Gombe State 10-year development document captures the inputs of the people from across the state. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
Thank you, Emmanuel. This is News Extra. In the next segment of the news, the Nigerian Navy masters the ocean as it flags off 65th Navy Week. Plus, a special look at caps to cap things nicely. Please stay. Great to have you back. Founded by the Navy Act of 1964 and second oldest in the Armed Forces of Nigeria, charged with the naval defense of Nigeria, the Nigerian Navy is now marking its 65th anniversary in a series of events commemorating its expanded role in maritime security and the oil and gas sector of Nigeria's maritime economy. Defense correspondent Naja Atutijani reports.
Younger than the Nigerian Army, but 8 years older than the Nigerian Air Force, which also recently marked its anniversary, the Nigerian Navy is marking its 65th anniversary with a difference while keeping its eyes on the horizon. At this press conference heralding the commencement of the 65th Navy Week, the Navy lists some of its milestones as the defender of Nigeria's maritime domain and assets.
In the last 4 months, the Nigerian Navy conducted and also participated in 13 exercises and operations geared toward combating illicit activities in Nigeria's territorial waters.
In addition to these operational achievements, the Navy says it has come a long way in the area of human capacity development, providing equal opportunities for both genders. It says it is equally proud of its fleet renewal program, expressing pride in its newest vessel, NNS Lana, with expectations for more platforms. Given a sneak peek into the future, the Navy says it will also form 2 new commands and will seek to optimize technology for effective maritime operations.
Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awal Zubairu Gambo, endorsed the CNS Strategic Directive 5 of 2021 and the Nigerian Navy Strategic Plan 2020 to 2030. To re-energize the Nigerian Navy personnel towards productivity.
Meanwhile, the second oldest in the Armed Forces of Nigeria will hold special Jummat prayers and Sunday service, among other activities, in gratitude for 65 years of service to the nation. Najaa Tijani, NTA News.
And 4 days of activities marking the 57th anniversary of the Nigerian Air Force have culminated in the unveiling of a telemedicine portal aimed at boosting the healthcare of NAF personnel and members of host communities. Defense correspondent Najat Tijani again has that.
In these COVID-19 times, reduced physical contact or social distancing is the new normal, and with healthcare taking a hit from the virus, medical experts, including those in the military, have been forced to step up their healthcare plan. Enter enter the telemedicine portal, a state-of-the-art platform aimed at bridging the healthcare gap, especially in the warfront and remote areas.
Telemedicine is also advantageous in addressing the manpower shortages frequently experienced in the medical, just like in any other professions.
The telemedicine portal will also limit physical consultation, yet will allow users benefit from a remote but comprehensive medical examination.
I therefore urge all personnel to take full advantage of this cutting-edge technology as the project is rolled out in phases at Nigerian Air Force units across the country.
The launch of the portal is part of activities marking 57 years of the Nigerian Air Force, which has seen it evolve into a formidable fighting force in the air and on land with special forces. Naja'atu Tijani, NTA News.
The Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, says it recorded 27% decrease in the total number of crashes that occurred during the Eid al-Fitr period, as a total of 5,511 offenders were arrested for committing 6,858 offences between 11th and 17th May 2021. A statement by the Corps indicates that a total of 92 road traffic crashes were recorded, as against 117 in the same period in 2019, representing 27% decrease. The Corps also covered 1,575 routes, impounded 3,051 vehicles, representing 8.9% decrease in impoundment, and apprehended 5,511 offenders as against 5,713 offenders in 2019, representing 3.5% decrease for committing 6,858 offences as against 6,481 offences in the same period in 2019, representing 5.8% decrease. The statement also says the decrease recorded in road traffic crashes is largely attributed to several coordinated factors, among which are the establishment of station offices in almost all the 774 local government areas in Nigeria, intensified public enlightenment and sensitization campaigns held nationwide in collaboration with key stakeholders in the transportation sector and beyond, and effective patrol operations. President Muhammadu Buhari has paid heartfelt tribute to Professor Felicia Adebola Adedoyin, renowned professor of education and composer of the National Pledge, saying her patriotic fervor will be remembered anytime the National Pledge is recited. President Buhari asserts that the thoughtful and solemn words of the National Pledge by the iconic composer have become an invocation to every citizen of the country to serve our fatherland with faithfulness, loyalty, and honesty. The president submits that Nigerians will continue to honor the memory of this legend, who in 33 words gave us a timeless promise to keep for the nation. President Buhari extends his commiseration to the Adedoyin family, friends and associates, as well as the government and people of Oyo State on the passing of the academic and writer whose immense work will remain indelible in our minds. He prays Almighty God to grant the departed eternal rest. The death has also occurred and has been announced of Madam Paulina Nodi. Mrs. Nodi's demise occurred on the 4th of February 2021. She was aged 86. A statement from her family indicates that there will be a service of songs in her honor on Friday, the 21st of May, at the Nodi's family compound, Kana local government area, Ogoni, River State. The funeral mass is scheduled for 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 22nd of May, at St. Charles Catholic Church Cathedral, Bong, by the priest's residence interment. Interment follows immediately after Mass. Madam Matilda Barikui Nodi is survived by children, including Dr. Lee Nodi, former Zonal Director, Enugu Network Center, and Leonard Nodi, Assistant Manager, Production Services, as well as grandchildren.
You can get more news and updates on www.nta.ng or follow us on our Twitter handle at NTA News Now. You can also like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/NTA Network News, and also stay connected and subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Also remember to watch our news live streaming at www.nta.ng/live.
Well, news just coming in from Kaduna said no official of Kaduna State will go to Abuja for any meeting with the federal government of Nigeria or NLC when the citizens of the state have no electricity. We hold the federal government of Nigeria responsible for inability to assert its ownership rights over TCN, no electricity, no meeting at El-Rufai. The Kaduna state government is yet to see evidence that the NLC is backing off from its campaign of economic and social sabotage against the people of the state. And before we go, here's a reminder that you can be a star as we join the NTA to stand against rape and rapists. With that, we conclude News Extra for tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of it. But before I go,